Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict here on Racing TV, and today we are going to concentrate solely on QIPCO British Champions Day at Ascot. So some very interesting performances that I'm going to analyse, look at the winners and indeed some of the vanquished as well, notably of course Baaeed in the Champion Stakes itself. Here are the winners from the day. As you look at these winners, I think it's important to talk about conditions. The ground described as being a good to soft. Overall, I think it was a lot nearer soft than good to soft. It was quite hard work out there, and that had an effect on results. Trushan winning the stayers, Kinross the sprint, Emily Upjohn the fillies and mares, Bayside Boy a shock winner at 33-1 of the QE2, Baaeed winning the Champion Stakes and the Balmoral handicap to David O'Mara, who's got a tremendous record in the race, 80-1 in the last. We'll start at the top then. The stayers, Trushan winning this for the third year on the bounce. He was sent off the 11-8 favourite. Elderov was 11-4, Waterville 11-2, 10-1 Coltrane, big drifter Coltrane, despite what he achieved at Doncaster on his previous start. Quickthorn is 11s, having bombed out in the Cadran. Trawlerman 20s, the E-Ball winner. Wordsworth 33s, and Stratum was 66-1. Right, let's have a look at what happened out there in the stayers. Trushan wins yet again, jumping out of stall number 5. Coltrane from 3 in second place. They had another set 2, these two horses, after their run at Doncaster. Trawlerman from stall 4, the E-Ball winner, was back in third, and Stratum for Willie Mullins finished in 4th place. So those are the principles in the stayers. I think the first thing we can say about this 2-mile Group 2 contest was that it was quite truly run. Quickthorn took them along in the early part of the contest and took them along at a reasonable gallop really. 14.93, 12.57 and 12.99. These sectionals that I'll quote throughout the programme, courtesy of Longines, and they are also ground affected, I think. Perhaps they're not going to be as quick as you would imagine normally. Not certainly going to be as quick as some of the numbers that I mentioned in previous verdicts on better ground. Holly Doyle, Trushan, causing interference at the first bend. She interferes with Coltrane, and there's a knock-on effect as far as Elderov is concerned in the yellow colours with the black stripes. And that was the first piece of interference that Holly caused in the race. There is another piece which we will highlight, for which combined she got 5 days for careless riding. She's got the pitch she wants now. She's up against the rail, and Trushan travelling quite strongly. Trawlerman just in front, as is Wordsworth, and Coltrane to her outside, and just in behind there is Stratum, who actually comes home quite strongly according to the numbers and finishes the race off pretty well. But this is really all about Trushan gaining his 3rd win in a row in this race, and he's had a pretty good season. Northumberland Plate probably the standout performance. He was a little bit disappointing at Doncaster, where he wandered off a true line and Coltrane got the better of him in a good finish. This was more truly run than the Doncaster race, and I think that helped Trushan. For the numbers tell us that ultimately he just outstays Coltrane. Now, Coltrane is one of the most improved horses this season. His win at Sandown earlier in the year was highlighted here on The Verdict, and one should not decry Trushan for having to work really hard to beat Coltrane, for he is a very good stayer, this fella, and he'll be interesting next year in all of the cup races. So we're going down the back here, Quickthorn taking them along. They're still going an even gallop. We know that from the sectionals that have been produced, and also that this was just about the 2nd best time overall on the card. It was certainly the best time overall on the round course, so they went more of an even gallop in this than they did in, for example, the Champion Stakes, which we'll get to just a little bit later on. The pace picked up, of course, in the home straight, and Coltrane makes quite a big move not long after they turn in. And the 13th and 14th furlong, he was quicker than Trushan, but he's a little bit wider. He's giving away a little bit more ground, and that might just have been crucial in the end. Here's the interference. Holly Doyle angling out to get a run and sandwiches Wordsworth, who drops away thereafter. And there's Coltrane. Now he's just going quicker than Trushan through the last 2 furlongs, but now Trushan just outstays him. Fastest in the final 2 furlongs, Trushan, a 13.42 and a 14.09. And that sealed the deal for Trushan. Coltrane battling on really well in the closing stages. But Trushan was just too strong late on. Too strong through those final 2 furlongs. But I wonder whether Coltrane might have won if he'd not been forced wide on the home bend. The Longines figures tell us that he travelled 4 metres further than Trushan, and that was because of where he raced on that home turn, and because of that, well, that might just have cost him. See that tiny bit of interference in the closing stages we highlighted? That really was Coltrane rolling around in the ground and rolling onto Trushan, who in turn rolled back again. I don't think that the stewards took a dim view of that at all. They did of the other 2 bits of interference on the first bend and the home turn as well. But it was Trushan who, as Alan King said, silenced the doubters. I wasn't aware that there were too many doubters, really. He's been a tremendous stayer over the last few years. He's right up with the best, although the best weren't necessarily here, were they? Kyprios wasn't here after his brilliant Cadran win, and of course Stradivarius retired. But we move into a new era for the stayers, and I think Coltrane is going to be a really good stayer next year going forward. Trushan will always be there when there's cut in the ground, and the brilliant Kyprios is the one that they will have to shoot at. Holly Doyle coming back in after the first race on QIPCO Champions Day. A truly run staying event. Trushan wins again. From staying to sprinting, the second race on the card at Ascot on Saturday was the QIPCO British Champions Sprint Stakes. 6 furlongs was the trip, and Kinross was the favourite at 3-1. 4-1 Creative Force won it last year. Rohan, the Wokingham winner, 4-1 from 5s. Art Power back to form at the Curragh last time, 9-2. Perfect Power 10-1. Naval Crown 14s. Tenebrism 16s, 28s. And bigger the rest. Some decent sprinters lining up here. And an interesting result, and the best time performance of the day at Ascot from Kinross, who came from stall 17 over towards the stand side. Second home, Run to Freedom at a huge price. Stall 14, Creative Force from 13 was third. And look at this, Rohan over there, winning the race on the far side, but away from the main action, Rohan. And it was Kinross who, for me, has absolutely bolted up here under Frankie Dettori. A stiff 6 furlongs with cut in the ground is right up his street. Of course, he stays 7 furlongs, and some would say he is something of a 7 furlong specialist. But this test at Ascot with dig in the ground was perfect for him, and Frankie kept it very simple towards the stand side. I do think you want it to be towards the stand side, high numbers prevailing. Kinross always prominent, just sat in behind, handy under Frankie, just there. And when he kicks on this horse, the race is over in a matter of strides. The final 3 furlongs, he was quicker through each of those individual furlongs than all of his rivals. And his final 3 furlongs of 35.86 was miles better than anything that his rivals could produce, according to the numbers. So this, according to the figures, was a complete and utter annihilation. It was a really dominant performance from Kinross. In behind, Run to Freedom's run well towards the stand side. Creative Force likewise stand side, and then far side. He's unlucky, isn't he, Rohan? He's just on the wrong side of the track. He finishes 4th at his beloved Ascot. He loves the place. He really goes well here, and he's only beaten about 3 or 4 lengths, but Kinross has absolutely thrashed them. Now, there is an element, some of these good sprinters that are fast horses have just had their speed blunted by conditions. That may well be the case for a few of them, notably Art Power, who normally travels really strongly and is a very fast horse. And this fella, Kinross, has just stayed on too strongly for all of them. I want to mention Rohan again. He fired the second fastest final 3 furlongs in the race. 36.05 for Rohan, over on the far side. Should have been second, really. I put it to you that if he'd raced stand side, he would have been second behind this really good winner for the Rafe Beckett team. Horse who's in a really good place at the moment, Rafe said when interviewed afterwards on Racing TV. And the Breeders' Cup Mile might be next for him. It's probably worth a go. Turning mile, quite a sharp mile where they'll go fast early on. He can get some cover and drop in. But what about the ground? The ground's going to probably be quick. That might not necessarily suit him, and a mile stretches him as well. But it might well be worth a go. For me, though, this was a totally and utterly dominant performance from Kinross, where everything was in place for him. And another winner for Frankie, another Group 1. Let's move on to the 240, the fillies and mares. This was over just shy of a mile and a half. Emily Upjohn, the 3-1 favourite. Sea La Rosa was well back, 9-2 from 11-2. Eternal Pearl for Godolphin had a brilliant season, a 9-2 shot. Eshada won this last year, 9-1. Sweet Lady, 9-1, and it's 10s and bigger. The rest, quite a deep race really. There's some in-form horses in here, the likes of Mimikyu and Eternal Pearl, and it was interesting to see Very Elegant turned out against their own sex as well. But it was Emily Upjohn who won from stall 10. Drawn a little bit wide here over a mile and a half. It's never a problem being wide at Ascot over this trip. Thunderkiss from 5, Insinuendo was from 12, and Eshada came from stall number 7. First thing to say about this was that it wasn't a furiously run race. They went quite steady in the early part of it, and it did turn into a little bit of a dash up the home straight, and one horse was badly inconvenienced. That was Insinuendo, who flew home in the closing stages. A big run from that filly to grab 3rd place. But it was Emily Upjohn who made up for the fact that she was way too keen in the King George, did far too much and finished last, and things didn't go away in the Oaks at Epsom, of course, where she fluffed the start, and then she didn't get a very good trip through that race. She was very wide and gave away loads of ground, and Tuesday got the better of her. She's a bit keen here in the hood. Here she is, just tucked in there. She's in the Lloyd Webber colours now, the major share owners in her now, since this horse ran in the Oaks. And the pace is not furious at all. They go really steady and then they quicken up in the home straight. But Emily Upjohn is always in quite a good position, and she's very good, this filly. And John Gosden has got a great record with the hood. Hood first time for John Gosden is a tremendous angle. He's got a really good strike rate with that particular angle, and they've done a good job on her at home as well, because she was very keen in the King George, but they've got her to settle. She's taken well to the hood, and she's got a bright turn of foot, and for me this does make up for her Oaks defeat. She quickened up in pretty good style. I tell you that she went through the 10th furlong in 12.02. Now you might expect those figures to be a bit bigger than that. Around, well, 11 something you'd have thought for that, but it's the ground. I do think they were racing on soft ground, and I think that made a difference to the numbers. Final 3 furlongs was pretty good, 37.48. That's pretty good. And she'd obviously saved a fair bit of energy in the early part of the race that was steadily run, and she's got a decent turn of foot according to those numbers. The 11th furlong was the best. She did a 12.02 through the 11th furlong to put the race to bed. Here she is surging past Eshada, firing that 12.02, and she's not for pegging back after that. The Grey Thunderkiss running on for 2nd place, and Insinuendo making loads of headway in the closing stages to be 3rd. If I tell you that Insinuendo was sat in 12th with 4 furlongs to run, and here she comes into the picture with a white cap, flying in the closing stages, and nearly grabbed 2nd place out of Thunderkiss. That is a massive run from her, and the numbers back that up, because her final furlong was 12.97, the fastest in the race. So from a really poor position in a steadily run affair, Insinuendo has come home really strongly. But it was the turn of foot that Emily Upjohn showed from a better track position that won the race. Final 3 furlongs of 37.48 did it for Emily Upjohn. Insinuendo, though, a massive sectional upgrade for her. A double on the card for Frankie. Well, could Frankie make it a treble? He was on board the favourite in Spiral for the QE2. She was 11-10. Modern Games was 4-1 for Charlie Appleby. The Revenant 9-2 and Jadumi 9-1. 16's Tempest and 22-1 and bigger. The rest for this straight mile QE2. It's a fascinating contest, this. Lots to get into here. Winner is Bayside Boy stall 7 for the Roger Varian team. Modern Games from 8 was in second place. Jadumi from 2 finished third, supplemented to run in this. And at the start, the main focus has to be on stall 9, the favourite, 11 to 10, in Spiral. Watch what she does as we send them on their way. Effectively, for me, she's tried to refuse to race. She didn't want to come out. In the end she did, and she ceded a few lengths, certainly to Jadumi, who takes them along in a pedestrian gallop. But because of that pedestrian gallop, she is soon in touch, and she has not had to use up too much petrol to get right on the heels of those held up in the race. And it should be noted at this point that she is sat right next to the winner. There's the winner with the yellow cap, and Spiral is here. So that's slow start, refusing to come out, whatever you want to call it, has not necessarily cost her too much. What perhaps has is that she's keen in the race. You can see there under Frankie, she's just doing a bit too much. And then mid-race, to try and get in touch, she fires 3 of the fastest furlongs in the contest to just try and get to Jadumi and Modern Games, who are more prominently placed. And then she flattened out after that. So having said that, what we've got to do is mark up Bayside Boy's performance here from the position he is in. Jadumi crawls along. He's got the run of the race. He went 14.8, 13.45, 13.26. This is a mile race. They are really crawling out there for a Group 1, and Jadumi's got it all in place to go and land this contest, given how it was run. Here's in Spiral, firing those quick furlongs to try and get in touch under Frankie. And then she flattens out a bit. This wasn't her running, it's a second poor run of the year from her. She can obviously throw in a bad one. And now Bayside Boy, far side, is doing something that other horses on the card didn't manage to do, which was quicken sharply. Conditions were against horses who wanted to quicken up. And he shows a real good turn of foot in the closing stages. 11.59 he went through the 6th furlong. He backed it up in the 7th with 11.71, and overall he was easily the fastest horse through the final 3 furlongs at 35.38. He has displayed a hitherto unknown turn of foot in this race. He's got good form, good back class. The St James's Palace Stakes run for 1 being a really good one, a Virtue Futurity run being a good one as well. But this is the best he's ever produced, and now he's won 2 races on the bounce. And what can we equate from winning those 2 races? On both occasions he wore blinkers. The only 2 times he's worn blinkers. Sandown last time when he won, and now here winning this Group 1 with a blinding turn of foot. Jadumi's boxed on really well. Run of the race out in front. Modern Games, nothing wrong with his run at all, getting himself into 2nd place in the end. In fact, he did well to run Jadumi down, but neither had the turn of foot of Bayside Boy. In those blinkers, far side, surging clear, and he really did sprint in the final 3 furlongs, and that was very impressive from Bayside Boy. He's got to try and do it when he gets a stronger gallop to go at, but I put it to you that blinkers are important to him, soft ground is important to him as well, and when he gets those conditions, he's clearly a bona fide Group 1 miler. This was his career best by some way. As for in Spiral, well, who knows what they're going to do with her. Dam Starscope was pretty temperamental. She showed signs of temperament there at the start, and she was also a little bit flat in the race as well. It wasn't just the start that caused her demise. Bayside Boy, QE2 winner, and boy, what a turn of foot he's got. Time for the big one now, here on The Verdict, the QIPCO Champions Stakes. 10 furlongs, Baaeed fours on to remain unbeaten and end his career in glory. Adyar 6-1, Baybridge 10-1, my Prospero was 22-1, 33's Dubai Honour, and 40s and bigger the rest. Well, what an interesting race this is, and it wasn't Baaeed. Most people had gone to Ascot to see him be crowned a true champion and to be able to compare him to Frankel, but I'm afraid he could only manage 4th place. Baybridge, the winner for Sir Michael Stout from stall number 4, Richard Kingscott. What a season he's had winning this, and Derby winner as well, of course. Adyar from stall 6 was second, ran a big race. My Prospero was in third place for the William Haggis team, and there Baaeed, there he is in stall 1, only in 4th spot, and disappointing to say the least. Okay, we'll send them on their way, and it's Stone Age who makes the running for the Aidan O'Brien team. My Prospero's up nice and handy. Baaeed is handy as well, and Baaeed is just dropped in. He's got plenty of cover. He was drawn in stall 1, and he was always just going to be given a little bit of a chance. Here's the winner, Baaeed, who's just in there. And then you've got Adyar just towards the outside. Godolphin Blue sat there. My Prospero just in front of him. And here's Baaeed. So Baaeed's a little bit further behind the principals than perhaps some would have liked. But given the turn of foot that he showed when he won at York, and when he's won over a mile as well, I don't think Jim Crowley would have at all been bothered as to his track position at this particular point. The gallop was not particularly strong. The early sectionals for the leader, 13.12, 13.26, 13.28. So they were not really going very hard out there. And indeed, the final time of just a shade over 2 minutes, 9 seconds is an okay time in easy ground, but it shows that they didn't go that hard. And they picked up in the home straight. Look where the winner is though. He's nice and handy. Sat pretty close and ready to strike. And here is Adyar, My Prospero, and Baaeed. He's ceding them a few lengths, ceding the principals a few lengths. I'm not going to say that he was beaten because of track position in what was quite a steadily run affair, for I think he had every chance. I've seen it written in various places, particularly on social media, that he got a bad ride from Jim Crowley. I'm not having that at all. I don't think he was given a bad ride. It'd be very wrong to criticise Jim Crowley. He knows his horse particularly well, and he had a chance. In fact, he had more than a chance at this point when they turn in, because he comes good. He looks really good there. He's on the bridle, he's going well, and he's in a position to strike. He's got Baaeed just in front of him, travelling there. He's got My Prospero in front of him, Adyar towards the outside. All he's got to do is find a seam to run in. He's tracking Adyar now, but in a minute, when he's asked to go, he wheel spins. He can't quicken. The conditions for me blunting his speed, for he is a very fast horse. He's shown us that before when we've analysed him on the verdict and looked at his sectionals. What about the leader? Baaeed fighting with Adyar at this stage. Baaeed was fastest through the penultimate furlong of 12.13. Adyar, though, a strong stayer, of course, at this trip, was fastest just through the final 3 furlongs, 37.1 against 37.12. Did Baaeed not perform at all? Did he just flatten and not show anything? No, he did show something according to the numbers. His 8th furlong was the fastest in the race, 11.82. I put it to you that he was all there. The old Baaeed was all there, but conditions mitigated against him. It was just too soft for him out there. Remember when he won at York, it was officially good to firm, and he cruised through the race and he quickened up like a wild horse to win as he liked. But here he couldn't quicken because of conditions. And another important point to make, I think, about him is, remember, this is 10 furlongs on softish ground, on a stiffer track than at York. So perhaps, and this might be controversial, but perhaps he just didn't stay 10 furlongs on softish ground on a stiff track, because he's a very fast horse. He's got loads and loads of speed, this fella, and we've seen that throughout his career. Well done to Baaeed, well done to Sir Michael Stoute, getting this horse back to his best. He's always threatened to win a Group 1, and also well done to Richard Kingscott. A no-nonsense ride, sat close to a steady pace and then quickening in the home straight. It was a good ride from him. What about Baaeed at York compared to the Baaeed that we saw at Ascot? Well, I put together a little bit of a comparison. It's difficult to compare these figures because one's a flat track, York, a speed track, and Ascot's a stiffer track, and we've got different ground. Good to firm at York, and it was on the easy side, of course, at Ascot. But look at these sectionals. Look, he could dip under 11 seconds at York, 10.96 in the 7th furlong. He went 12.81 in that furlong at Ascot. He was quickest at Ascot, 11.82 in furlong 8. He did 11.59 at York, 11.34 in the 9th at York, 12.25 at Ascot, and then the 10th furlong, again much quicker at York. Now that's a function of ground, but it's also a function of how the race was run at York. My point being that the race at York was steadily run, very steadily run, and it turned into a sprint. Those numbers tell us how quickly he was able to sprint. This was more strongly run at Ascot on softer ground, and he couldn't produce the same numbers, telling me that the ground mitigated against him, and perhaps the trip did as well in the conditions. However, has to be said, he remains a champion. The final race at Ascot on Saturday, the Balmoral handicap over a mile, 9-2 Bashkirova, Blue for You 7-1, 15-2 Migration and Sweet Believer, an 8-1 shot, 10s Tyrrhenian Sea, Orban 11s, 12s and bigger the rest. And we had an 80-1 winner of this. It was Chalier from stall 11, just there, who got the better of Sweet Believer, who came out of 20. And in third place, Taxation Bay from Tacarib Bay rather, from stall 2, who did best of those on the far side. And it was a good effort from Safe Voyage as well, from stall number 13 to round out 4th spot. Here we go then, 80-1 winner for David O'Mara, who's won this race 3 times, notably with the really good Lord Glitters. And there's no fluke about it really. I think a high draw was an advantage here. Stall 11 beats 20, beats 2, beats 13. And Chalier was held up in a race that was quite strongly run. The finishing splits show that Chalier went through the final furlong in 13.15. So, I mean, it looked like he was surging clear, but he was clearly finishing quite tired in this race. So I think it was quite strongly run. Of horses that shaped well, you'll probably be able to pick out loads that did. The one that shaped particularly well to my eye and was a horse for handicaps next season, Racing TV tracker for Migration, who gets no sort of run through the race at all, held up in the early stages of the race, couldn't get through, whereas Chalier does manage to find a way through. Final 3 furlongs for the winner, 38.14, and picking up horses who'd gone quite hard in the early stage. Here he is trying to find a way through. Eventually he'll get out. That's Migration, your Racing TV tracker horse for handicaps next season, trained by David Menuisier. There'll be more to come from that horse. Look at Sweet Believer on the wide outside, about to get into contention in the yellow colours, picked up in pretty good fashion. But Chalier's cantering here, just looking for a little bit of room. You can see Migration angling for room, running all over the place, trying to find gaps to go in. And now Chalier is about to get out, and he will come home reasonably well. He's at 38.14, final 3 furlongs. And he was just quicker than the rest in the final furlong. They were not going fast at all. It was slow motion stuff late on. Over 13 seconds for him in that final furlong. But he got the job done in the Balmoral handicap for the David O'Mara team. So that concludes what was a very interesting QIPCO British Champions Day. I think things went a bit flat after the defeat of Baaeed. I think we can blame conditions for that. I've got no doubt that the conditions had its part to play, and the fact that it was a stiff 10 furlongs in those conditions as well. He just couldn't show his true brilliance, couldn't flash the speed that we've seen so often this season from him. But well done to the Baaeed Bridge teams. A really good performance from that horse. It was by New Bay. And of course, the other big winner on the card, Besa Boy, was also by New Bay as well. So a great day for that stallion. QIPCO British Champions Day, a fabulous day. Perhaps not the results that a lot of people wanted, but there was plenty for us to analyse, and I hope you enjoyed looking at it with me here on The Verdict.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.